The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another great NXT review from Wrestling to the Max. And of course, we want to make sure that you know this is brought to you by the W2M Network. I am your host, Gary Vaughan, and along with me tonight is not Paul Leeser. It is Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
Hello. I'm kind of disappointed that I fell asleep Monday night. Otherwise, I could have pulled off the trifecta this week.
No, man, you could have been on Raw, SmackDown Live 205, and, of course, NXT. Well, it's okay, buddy. I mean, we don't expect these things to happen. My normal co-host for the NXT show, and of course, Monday Night Raw, Paul Leeser has been really busy. Lots of things going on in his personal life. Really working hard at this new job, and I think it's kind of affected his sleep pattern. So I think right now he's probably snoozing away, and that's okay. Hey, that's why we have.
Maybe next week I can focus on getting the trifecta done.
Yeah, exactly. Just say, hey, Paul, just take another little snooze there, buddy.
Just take another week off. We're good. We got you covered.
Exactly right. So I don't blame, Paul at all. The guy's working really hard. But I really appreciate you, Brandon, man. You have been a lifesaver, and I thank you so much for joining me on NXT. Otherwise, we may not even have an NXT show this week. So.
Yeah. Did you even end up doing a Raw show this week?
I sure did. Yeah, Sean filled in for Paul.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it makes it difficult for Sean, though, because Sean's got all these, different, hats he's having to wear right now. So he was able to fill in this week. But, of course, maybe next week, hopefully, if Paul's not able to do it, you'll be in the run for it. So
yeah, last week this past week, I had to go up to get some things taken care of early in the morning on Monday. So I was pretty beat by 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Sometimes these late nights can really get to you, and hey, trust me, I've been there, done that, So I'm just glad we're here to do NXT. We missed it last week, so we are going to give you guys a double shot of NXT. We'll cover last week's, and of course this week's for the March 7th and March 14th NXT shows. We're excited about doing that, and of course, hey, we do this every single week. Brandon just mentioned the trifecta. We give you all the WWE review shows all separately from our Wrestling to the Max family. So there you go. If you want to come find them all, make sure you go hit that subscribe button at the W2M Network, and that way you can get every single show we do, really, reviews, Wrestling to the Max, of course, all the other great shows like The Kickoff, Wrestling Unwrapped, even, hey, the guy himself is sitting here right with me right now, Fantasy Football to the Max. So we've got so many great shows out there for you guys.
And if you want to get our review of Fastlane, you can listen to Harry and I talk about Fastlane from this past Sunday.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the only way you're going to get it is by hitting that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast from. Whatever platform you use, I don't care if it's iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, iTunes, heck, even if you get it on YouTube, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And also, don't forget to go rate and review. That does us a little favor and also does you a favor because you can tell us some feedback that you want to hear, see, or, whatever from us. So there you go with that. And also, friends at 411mania.com and LastRunProWrestling.com have a lot of content too. So go check them out. We really appreciate you guys that have already done that. Well, I think it's time for us to get started on our first review here. So why don't we go ahead and jump in, Brandon? And last week's March 7th show started off by having a match that I think a lot of people were really kind of interested in, because they had some interesting things set up for us. They had the Dusty Rhodes Classic begin, and the first round would start with none other than the Authors of Pain taking on TM61. And this is a match that, really honestly, you could say it had favorites on both sides, but the Authors of Pain pulled out the victory here, not without, a little bit of trouble from TM61. TM61's been on a roll, and they really gave them, a good run for their money, but, the Authors of Pain were just a little too much for TM61.
Yeah, I feel like I was talking to someone about this match. And how it was so surprising that the Authors of Pain won because of the, promos and the vignettes that they've had of who are TM61 and everything. So it was a little surprising seeing them do all this work to try to seemingly push TM61, and then on their first real match back, they lose in the first round of the Dusty Classic.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of interesting, but I think really what we're looking at here is they didn't want the Authors of Pain to take an early loss, only for the fact that they've been the NXT Tag Champs recently. Not only that, they're still a big, strong team. TM61, they're going to be a part of NXT, I feel like, a little bit longer, so I think that's why. And they don't necessarily have to have the victory here in the Dusty Rhodes Classic to make a name for themselves. So that's what makes me a little bit more understanding of why TM61 did not get the victory here. And I like the way they did the match because they gave both teams some even kill, offense and all that. But at the end of the day, really, it was about TM61 and the fact that, injury kind of caused their loss. So Authors of Pain, good job. Really happy for you. And we'll talk about the Authors of Pain again very soon. But, the Dusty Rhodes Classic is a blast to watch, and this is the kind of stuff we love to see, right? These kind of matchups are what the Dusty Rhodes Classic is all about. So I'm not going to complain about that, no matter how much I do like TM61 myself.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. It's nice to see there's at least... I know there's another one this week, that was this week that we'll talk about later, that is kind of in the same boat of where there were two teams that you honestly saw. We oftentimes talk about one of the big problems in WWE, mostly on the main roster, is it's way too predictable. But, in the Dusty Rhodes Classic, you look at some of the matchups and you're like, I'm not sure who should get the win in this one. And this is one of those, especially with the whole Who Are TM61 videos. You were thinking, obviously, like you were saying, Authors of Pain are, have been the top dogs in the tag team division on NXT for like a year now. And so, you expect them to put on a good show, but, with the way they were pushing TM61, you were thinking, maybe they'll give a bit of a rub to TM61, especially with the rumors of Authors of Pain going up to the main roster. So, this was one that was definitely, it was definitely a coin toss, to see who would win this match. And then we've got another one coming up that we'll talk about later. That is kind of the same way, where you're not going into it, you weren't 100% sure who was going to win.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think the rumors of the Authors of Pain have a lot to do with this because they still want them to look strong. If you do watch NXT, they want them to have that big feel. And then, later on, they can probably crash them out and get someone to get a little bit of that rub. You're right. So I think it's really going to be fun to see where we go. And we'll, like you said, we'll talk some more Dusty Rhodes Classic in a bit here. Before we do that, though, we got to talk Bianca Belair. Yeah, that's right. She had a match. And this one was against someone, let's be honest, not many people know, Miss Drew Renee. And this was just basically is normal squash. So Bianca Belair gets her opportunity here to shine. I think a lot of people do, really appreciate her talent, a lot of the things that she does. And, hey, they're definitely giving her respect right now. So Bianca Belair, I feel like, has a pretty bright future.
Oh, definitely. It looks out of the girls that they brought in from the Mae Young Classic. You obviously have the final two, Kyrie and Shayna Baszler, as definitely getting a push. Obviously, Baszler a little bit more, which is a little bit surprising. But, especially with Rousey coming to the main roster, you kind of understand why. And then Bianca Belair is getting this push with her facing a lot of jobbers and doing a lot of squash matches over these last couple of weeks. But beyond that, you haven't really seen many from the Mae Young Classic yet on NXT TV, other than, Lacey Evans, I think, is the other one.
Yeah, Lacey Evans, and then, of course, you're just now getting a chance to see Gargano's wife.
I forgot that she was in the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah. So, you're right. There's very, very sporadic, appearances by the people in the Mae Young Classic. And in fact, they just released a couple of them Abby Lathe being one of those. And so, it kind of sad. It kind of makes you feel like, man, what was the whole point? But I think really that Mae Young Classic, like we've talked about in the past, was more about showcasing talent from around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when they cherry picked them, they kind of thought, well, we got some things we can do. And then they realized, no, there's not. We don't have the things we thought we could do. So let's let them go ahead and go back out there in free agency. And I don't know. Maybe they have plans later on, but right now at this moment, they've kind of had to switch directions. And I'm glad for the ones that did come out of it and are on NXT TV. And I think we're finally getting a chance to see more of them, and that's a really, really positive thing. So, and of course with Bianca Belair, you also got that nice moment when the hair whip thing. I always think of Mortal Kombat every time I see that. I can't believe that I can say that on a wrestling show, but yeah, it reminds me of Mortal Kombat. So. I don't think we got a chance to see it here in this matchup. No. I don't remember it, but
I don't think so either.
Yeah, so that's okay. I'm sure next time we'll get it.
Yep.
Let's talk some Tommaso Ciampa here. I'm a huge Ciampa fan. Anytime I could talk about this guy, I am over the moon. But in this instance, he comes out. He's going to address the crowd. The crowd continually hates on him, chants against him, chants for Johnny Gargano, just all that stuff comes out, and it's really a weight game here for him. He's just kind of looking around, hanging out, noticing no one wants him to talk. Everyone hates him, so he gets out of the ring, grabs the fans' sign for Gargano, rips it up, beats it with his nice little, what's it called? Oh
no, the cane, or no, the
crutch.
The crutch. There we go.
Yeah, I can't believe I can't think of what the heck it is. It's a crutch, for God's sake. Anyway, he beats that to death, and then of course walks out of the ring without saying anything. Very reminiscent of Mr. Chris Jericho at one point, where he kind of liked to do that: get in the ring, say nothing, and leave. Yeah, I mean, really, this doesn't do much, but just kind of showcase that people hate Ciampa, and they love Gargano. Gargano is their guy.
Well, I mean, it felt very much like Roman's promo, well, lack thereof after Mania last year. But the one thing that, and I'm, again, because they did it, they did it both weeks, and we're doing a 2-week show. It's kind of, all blurring together. But I'm not sure if it was in this one or in, the next week's show, which is this week's. But it shocked me, and I think it was this week actually. Last week the fans were absolutely on point with what they were supposed to be doing with this, and they were completely booing. But then this week, suddenly you're hearing, Chomp, or we hear Johnny Sucks chants, and we're starting to kind of even get this double standard on this feud, even, which it seemed, and it felt like this would be very clear cut. So I mean, I know that's the trend nowadays, but it's kind of annoying on certain feuds.
Yeah, you're completely right about that, and it's just one of those things which you have to kind of take and give. But I feel like you're right. I mean, it really kind of takes away from some of what you want to be pushed across here, and that's the fact that we should totally hate, Ciampa and everything that he stands for, and the fans just kind of take that away a little bit because they're a little smarky and think that they, hey, let's go ahead and chant against the guy that's the babyface so we can root for the heel, and I don't know.
I mean, if they're not giving you a reason to root for or if they're not giving a reason for you to boo the heel and whatnot, and if the heel's being really cool and whatnot, then it's one thing. But this is a pretty clear cut and dry, and this is the one thing that NXT has done a lot better than the main roster is, they've made their heels very heely. And it's to the point where, even if you are a smarkier fan, you're you're not liking these guys. You know, Samoa Joe did it really well back in the day. Shayna Baszler right now is doing an incredible job with it. Tommaso Ciampa is doing a really good job with it. So, I mean, I guess you're still going to get those, fans that are, it's basically the same fans that are cheering for Almas and Miz no matter what now. So you're going to get that, but it was just so shocking to me hearing it come out so prevalent in this segment.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And, Gargano is the ultimate babyface.
Exactly.
He just really, really is such a strong babyface. And it's kind of weird that they're not really on board with that dynamic as much as they really should be, and as much as I think that they would be. And I don't know. I think sometimes you're just going to have people who are contrarian, no matter how good of a job you do. They're always going to kind of try to ruin it for everybody. So. Let's move on to the main event, though, here in this show. Let's talk about Aleister Black taking on Killian Dain. I love both these guys. I'm really, really happy that Killian Dain's even on a WWE show, part of the roster. It makes me so happy. And Aleister Black is...
He seems like he's getting a, he hasn't gotten a title shot or anything like that yet, but, he definitely seems like he's getting a push, and I think he will be champion at some point over this year, hopefully.
Yeah,
or at
I
least
think
in
you're
a
right.
title match.
Yeah, he'll be at least around the picture, and I think a title is probably not far from him. The only reason I say that is because right now WWE does have a lot of big guys on their main roster, so no reason to rush Killian Dain to the main roster and let him take over NXT for a bit. Let him be that guy. Let him get his feet really, really murky with the WWE style of doing things and really let him focus on that and then take him up to the main roster after that. And I really feel that that's a good plan. Hopefully they stick with that. I think this match is just proof of why he belongs here. You got Aleister Black and him just really battling it out here. I think that they did a wonderful job of giving both guys the right amount of offense, letting them showcase what they can do here. And, Aleister Black really kind of, for a lot of this match, does take a beating. I mean, there's some of this match you're going to thinking to yourself, oh, boy, is Aleister going to get anything in here? And then all of a sudden at the end here, you get a black mass, and it's over. At 1, 2, 3, Aleister Black is victorious. But you kind of question for a little bit there who could get that victory, and you really kind of feel like Killian Dain had the upper hand. But, it's once again proof that Aleister Black is the guy. And that black mass is nothing to mess with.
Yeah, I mean, Black is definitely, I would certainly hope that he's going to be the guy to take the title from Almas in New Orleans. And we'll talk about this more later for the next show, definitely. But he's going to have some help, which is going to be a good thing for him, certainly. Yeah, I mean... Black pulled out his inner Randy Orton in this match and hit that black mass out of nowhere.
Yeah. That's. I just hope they don't start saying that. That'd be gimmick infringement. I'm sure Orton would say.
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't. They wouldn't steal that from Orton. But yeah, I mean, you were talking about it before. We were talking about it before. I think honestly, in terms of the top of the card, this is the strongest and the deepest that NXT has ever been, and that's why we're getting now a new title coming soon.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. And this new title is going to be something that I think will be very important down the line. I mean, Paul has said on the show a few times about how, we could be seeing NXT go to 2 hours because they got so much talent. Not enough time, and not only that, if they ever added another title, they would definitely need more time. So they're adding the title. Let's see if they add the time.
But, I'm hoping we do. I'm certainly hoping we do because, I mean, think about it. At the top of the card, look at all of the guys that could be legitimate threats for the title. Adam Cole, Aleister Black. Once if Drew McIntyre doesn't go up to the main roster right away, him. You've got Killian Dain. You've got Lars Sullivan once he comes back from injury. All 5 of those guys could be legitimate threats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing the reason why that they're doing it, and like you're saying, all that talent you just named is definitely wasted if you don't have them really fighting for something, and not everybody can fight for the NXT Championship. Not, and you don't want everybody pushed over to the tag division if that's not the case. You want to have some more singles matchups that matter, that mean something. So that's really positive. I think that's why 205 Live, the cruiserweight division, is going to add tag titles because they got so much talent, but they can't all just fight for one title. So it's going to be really fun to see NXT bring this new championship. Of course, it'll be called, I believe, the NXT US Championship, right?
I think I heard that it was going to be the North American Championship.
Oh, you're exactly right. Thank you. The North American. That's exactly right. So I couldn't remember. I was like, no, it's something to do with the U.S. But you're right. It's better than the U.S. It's the whole entire continent. So
I'm just hoping that this also means that we're finally actually going to get the UK show, because ever since the UK show has been kind of put on hiatus, the UK title has kind of been the de facto mid-card title for NXT lately.
Mm-hmm. It really has. And, it's been a pleasure to watch the UK Championship be, on NXT television. But the problem is like you said, it's been kind of something that they've used as a saving grace when they had nothing else and when they needed another title to fight for. But besides that, it's just been kind of non-existent unless they just need it. So I love Pete
And
Dunne.
even there, it seems like because they're still trying to salvage a UK show, it's always a foregone conclusion that unless they're facing another UK guy, it's always a foregone conclusion that they're going to retain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very, very true. So I think, hopefully adding this North American Championship, it'll give a little bit less of that, hey, we already know who's going to win, and go ahead and give us that, I can't wait for this matchup and the NXT Championship matchup. That'll give you such a stacked card. TakeOver usually always has stacked cards, but when you add another title, it's going to amp the game up much more, in my opinion.
Yeah, because now you're going to have, I'm not sure if the UK title will be defended, but if it is, then you'll have 5 championship matches on the card.
Boy, that is definitely going to be something if they do that. They'll be, rivaling all the other shows. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that. And of course, until it actually happens, I mean, we'll have to kind of play the waiting game. But, that does round out the March 7th show for NXT. Now we are going to move on and talk about the March 14th show, the most recent NXT TV taping. And we'll jump into this one right now when we talk about Sanity taking on Riddick and Moss. And Riddick, of course, Sabatelli is also that part of the tag team. I said Riddick and Moss. Actually, it's Riddick Moss
and
Tino Sabatelli. Yeah, thank you. And leave it to the New Yorker to be able to say that correctly, because I almost said it wrong. Tino Sabatelli. I don't know how to say his name.
Constantino Martinez.
Yeah, there you go. So, but anyway, we have.
I gotta put in my old Yankees first baseman from back in the 90s.
Yeah, I knew you did. You had to throw in somebody that's in the Yankees. But yeah, Sabatelli and Moss, boy, they get on a match here against Sanity, and it's Eric Young and of course Alexander Wolf here, and they do a decent job here. What's kind of funny in this matchup though is really Sabatelli and Moss actually get the upper hand here, and they are really taking it to Alexander. Alexander's having a really tough time in this match. He's getting his butt beat really the whole entire time until things start to get a little bit more even. Eric Young comes in here and really heats it up. And then the big thing here, which I think will be many reasons why we may not see Moss and Sabatelli teaming together, is because they're having mess ups like, I believe it was Sabatelli knocking Moss off the apron. And so that caused some little chaos, which led to their loss. So that distraction really did cause a problem. So you have Sanity moving on in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. I mean, I think it only makes sense that Sanity moves on. But, this tag team that I actually thought had some feet to it, Sabatelli and Moss just maybe heading on that opposite direction now, and they may be splitting up.
I've kind of seen this from the get go. They just, I mean, I don't really know what they can do within NXT to begin with without maybe a gimmick change, because they just don't really do much for me, either one of them. But like this team, they just, I mean, have they ever? I mean, yeah, have they ever really even won any matches in NXT other than like their own like squash matches?
Nothing of significance that I can remember.
Yeah,
I
because
think,
like
yeah.
I know they feuded with Street Profits when Street Profits was first getting their push, and they lost to them. And I feel like they feuded with Heavy Machinery, and they lost to Heavy Machinery as well. So um, yeah, I think the breakup is going to be inevitable somehow, and then we'll just see what they do from there.
Yeah, I agree. We'll have to continue to kind of watch and see how they go. But it's honestly not that big a deal. You made that point, and I think a lot of people feel that way. I mean, Tino Sabatelli, I think they really want to find a place for him. I think they really want to get him even more ingrained in, professional wrestling, because he is a football player, and he's, really honestly came straight out of that and learned at the Performance Center and has done a decent job. He's not completely there yet. He's still trying to work hard towards that goal and get where they want him to be. And Moss is, to be honest with you, I just very generic. I've really never got into who he is or what he's about it, and maybe they'll figure something out for him. But
yeah, I mean that's how I feel about this whole tag team, is that they've been very generic right from the beginning, and I don't know what Moss's background is or anything like that, but Sabatelli you can definitely do something with. I feel, hyping up the fact that he did play football and whatnot. I'm not sure exactly how far he got, but you can still use that to hype him up and use that to create something kind of like what they've done with Mojo. Um, maybe put him with someone a little more established, who can help him build some sort of character behind him. But like you were saying, I think the big problem with both of them in this team in general is that they're just so generic, and there's a few of the newer guys that have taken some of the lower card spots after the last shakeup that I feel are in the same boat, like Fabian Eichner. I feel like there's one or two other guys, but they're so generic that you don't even remember their names.
yeah, and if Eichner's one of those guys, if he just found something, he would be out of this world. Great, because I love that guy. He's got everything. He's got the ring skills, the athleticism. It's just that gimmick. He needs one badly. Or he needs a better look or something. So, but yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Sabatelli really could use somebody that has the experience behind him. I'll say it again. I think the gimmick that they've got with Sabatelli right now is about money. Well, why don't you bring in the guy that's about money, EC3, and tag those two guys together, or at least have him be a mentor?
That could potentially work.
Yeah, I don't know, but if I just feel like EC3 is a great guy, and if there's anybody that would be a great mentor, it'd be him. So, let's move on and talk a little bit more about this Tommaso Ciampa stuff, and we've kind of talked a little bit. I've kind of talked a little bit about it, but I think that we can get into another thing here. We have Tommaso Ciampa coming out once again. The universe at NXT is very defiant. They are not happy. Of course, you got those people that want to be a rear end and continue to chant Gargano sucks, things like that. But the point was across. You have Ciampa leave the ring after people chanting Johnny Gargano and just getting some heat. How long are they going to do this, do you feel? I mean, because we're leading up here till NXT TakeOver New Orleans. How long do you think they're going to continue this? Because sometimes they can make this thing kind of wear out its welcome, or do you think they're going to have Ciampa eventually get on the mic and actually talk?
I think they'll either have him talk this upcoming week, or at the very least they'll have like him try to come out again one more time, and then, like, you know, maybe either have Gargano try to attack from the crowd or something like that, or Regal do something in regards to that. I mean, I think this is inevitably going towards a Gargano-Ciampa match at New Orleans.
I feel that way too, and I think that they've got to get Gargano back, and I think it'll be sooner than later because they're going to run out of time if they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I was just kind of curious what your thoughts were because I know sometimes they just kind of meander and kind of keep that thing going. It's kind of done now. I feel like they've got to have him get a mic and talk, or as he's doing this, some way somehow Gargano's there to show up. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we'll follow that as we go. Let's talk about Dakota Kai taking on Lacey Evans. And this is a matchup that I really was kind of curious about because, Lacey Evans has gotten a lot of offense, someone that has been made to shine a little bit here, getting some victories. But in this matchup, Dakota Kai gets the victory. And, hey, great talent, someone who should get victories. But I think it did take me by surprise a little bit because of what they've been doing with Lacey Evans. And of course, after the victory, out comes Shayna Baszler to intimidate Dakota Kai. She is the one who injured her arm.
Yeah.
But Shayna Baszler, gets closer like the wolf. But guess who shows up? Ember Moon to come out and save the day. And of course, she challenges Shayna Baszler for NXT TakeOver New Orleans, and that's going to be your NXT Women's Championship matchup at that show. What did you think about this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I think Dakota Kai, while I'm hoping that she does get more wins and she does get a bit of a push, I think the win for her was more so in order to set up the Baszler attack more than anything. And then the whole segment went, pretty much as you would expect, with her, coming out trying to intimidate and threaten Dakota Kai after doing the stuff that she did. Was Kai the one that she attacked at the Performance Center with the sleeper hold, or was that in the ring with the arm stomp?
The arm stomp was where she got injured, but she choked out the lady in the ring. I don't remember who that was. I don't think it was Dakota Kai. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I think it was somebody else.
Okay,
but
that's what I was trying to figure out. But yeah, especially after the arm stomp and everything, this is what Baszler has been doing for a while now, and looks like this is where it's going to continue. And then obviously Ember comes out to say enough with this bullying. I'm going to stand up to you, and I accept your challenge for another match.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun match to watch at TakeOver, and I look at Dakota Kai doing a great job going forward, and Lacey Evans, I would say surprised that she lost this match, but I get it from where you're coming from. It only makes sense to the storyline here. But Evans has not only lost this, she's lost some other ones recently. That just means that they want her to be a heel. And she's going to probably do some dirty things to try to get victories from here on out. So,
well, she already kind of was established as a heel from her first match right after when she called out Nikki Cross and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the point though. Is she's losing those matches though. Yeah. She's not winning them all. So yeah. I think that, as the time goes on, we'll see more out of that. But really, like you said, the focus was not even about this match. It was more about getting in that discussion of the NXT Women's Championship. So. Mm-hmm. Let's move on here, though, and let's talk about something that, was a lot of fun, I think, for a lot of fans to watch and check out. And that, of course, is another first-round matchup for the Dusty Rhodes Classic between the Street Profits and Heavy Machinery. And, boy, I love Heavy Machinery. I really, really do. Street Profits are great, though, too. I mean, so this is the one I think you were pointing to when you said it was hard to decide who was going to get the victory. We do have Street Profits going over, Hero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this was one that I was, very unsure of who's going to win this match because, Street Profits, they've been getting the bigger push, of recent, but, I've always been hopeful that, that Heavy Machinery would get a bit of a push in the tag team division, and I'm still hopeful that they do. But Street Profits go over on this one, and I think they definitely have something to prove, and they've got a bright future ahead of them moving forward in NXT. The spot with right at the beginning with I forget, is it Ford? I think it was Ford in the ring, backing up and grabbing the cup and taking a sip out and then handing it over to Dozovic, and then him taking a sip and throwing it at him and attacking him. That was great.
Oh man, that was awesome. I loved it. I was like, man, I really do want to know what's in that cup. It's a cup of cheer or something.
I mean, and Heavy Machinery has really impressed me with their promos over the last couple of weeks. They've been funny too. Like that one last week was hilarious.
Oh, I know. They are classic. I mean, I promise you, they remind me.
I know this is gonna bury Heavy Machinery, but I just want a battle of the machines.
Yeah, just between each other, right?
Between Heavy Machinery and War Machine.
Yep. Oh boy, those two teams are going to be so much fun when they get in the ring. Oh god, I can't wait. Oh boy. So, yeah, I mean, Street Profits do go on, and they will match up next round with somebody. Then we'll see if how that one looks. Let's talk a little bit about our main event here. Well, kind of our main event. This is a main event match, if you'll say it that way. We have Pete Dunne and his UK Championship on the line against Adam Cole. And boy, that also means you got Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly in tow as well. And, this was a matchup that I think a lot of people would, usually say, I can't wait, I love it. And I think, for the first part of this, it was really good. It was entertaining. It didn't take long, though, for, of course, none other than the two guys on the outside, Fish and O'Reilly, to get involved and to start the beatdown on Pete Dunne that caused a disqualification. Title doesn't change hands. But Pete Dunne does take a little bit of a beating here until, he has a little help show up in Roderick Strong. So this isn't one of those things where, I'm just kind of okay with. I think they're wanting to save, if this was actually going to happen down the line, Adam Cole and Pete Dunne for a big show straight up. But I don't know. I don't know how I really feel about this, to be honest with you, Brandon.
I mean, I think this was the best way in their minds, especially with the backstage interview last week, the best way to kind of save the momentum of Adam Cole in Undisputed Era, because, like I said before, with the UK title and them still holding out hope for creating a UK show, they're not going to give the UK title to an American. So, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Dunne was going to retain. But this allows Dunne to keep his momentum while not hurting Adam Cole's momentum. And then it also, makes this weird thing between Dunne and Roderick Strong now. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be something that I think, is one of the things we'll look at and say, okay, at least they gave you something here, a sneak peek of what you could get in the future. And then, of course, set up some other things down the line. So I have no problem with this. It just, at the moment, it just kind of felt like, okay, I didn't get overly excited or anything like that. And I think that may be the way we're supposed to feel at the moment. So let's talk signing that we have between Aleister Black and Cien Almas. Well, Almas was nowhere to be seen. So you guys, Zelina Vega coming out here. Yeah, I know, right? Zelina Vega is the one that has to speak for him. So, of course, she does a lot of it, talking, about how great he is, running down Aleister Black, and just doing her normal thing, which, is, a good job. Now, you have Aleister Black this entire time, just kind of pacing in the ring, doing his normal thing, and just kind of, in a way, playing his own game. And he continues to hear the downplay from Zelina, moves the table that the contract is on. Zelina slaps him. He, of course, signs that contract pretty quickly after that, hands it to her. And, of course, he does this whole sit-down thing and all that. So all this is in tow. I'm not doing it in the right order. But, he just kind of does the Aleister Black. She does Zelina Vega. And in the end here, though, she pretty much pisses him off well enough to where he kind of gets in her face. And, of course, gets on the mic, backs up, and says, okay, I'll be, taking on Almas. But you came alone, but I didn't. So that, of course, which was funny because at first you're just thinking, what the heck is he talking about?
Oh,
here,
I
right?
knew exactly who he was talking about, right?
Yeah. So as soon as, he breaks that news, we have the party being crashed, right? Because Gargano's wife runs down to the ring. So Candice LeRae is in tow, beats down Zelina Vega. And now, of course, we're setting up that feud even more. Mm-hmm. It's already been lit up, but now we're getting it more heated up. I mean, I think this whole thing worked out fine. I kind of like the idea of really Aleister Black can't do anything, but he finds a way to do something.
I hope that someone. I mean, Dean did a bit of a job with this on his own back when he was facing Miz. But I hope someone uses this same sort of strategy once Maurice comes back, or if Mike and Maria come back on the main roster, because this is brilliant. Someone should have done this years ago with valets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't hit you. Well, I'll just find someone that can. And I think Candice, for as long as Almas has the title, is going to be basically the bodyguard for anyone who is facing him. And it's brilliant.
Yeah, it really is. And, I also am reminiscent of WrestleMania when The Rock and Ronda Rousey did that to Steph and Triple H, kind of same thing there. And I think, it works out great. And for Aleister Black, I mean, a guy that you wouldn't normally think that would be in that thought process, right? A guy that kind of is about himself, kind of, has his own aura. And for him to do that, it's kind of funny, but it makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think it shows that he's a tactician. He's smart. He's a man that knows his way around the ring. And he knows that, per WWE rules, I can't do anything to this you-know-what. So I'm gonna get someone who can. So, it's a smart move on Black's part. And, it's just, I'm shocked that no one has ever thought to do it in wrestling before. With all of the valets, I mean, granted, we've never had a valet that's gotten quite to the physicality of Vega, but, it's shocking that this is the first time, at least that I can remember, that we've ever seen this before.
Yeah, to this extent, you're right. This is the first time, and in a long time if they've done it already. I think this is something though that really works. You kind of get a combo here because you got two feuds burning, and they both got some nice shine. I'll say it that way because
I'm just hoping that this results in a Vega versus Candice squash match.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to see a squash, but I definitely want to see a heated matchup. I mean, if they do a squash match, it is what it is. But I think it'd be kind of fun to see a really good back and forth and to kind of see some quality out of two people that really should put on a quality match.
And
so
I even before the whole Candice stuff, I loved the way that Aleister was handling himself in the ring, like him putting his putting his hand up to Vega's mouth and just being like, "Please, would you please just shut up already?" Basically saying exactly what every fan in the arena was thinking.
Yep, you're exactly right, and that's what's nice about some of these guys because they can do that and really get the crowd even more behind them. So I do dig that as well. But yeah, I mean, that'll continue on, and I'm really excited about the future of what Aleister Black and Almas is going to be about, and of course, LeRae and Vega. Those two matchups would be really great showcases for that big NXT Takeover New Orleans show. But that also rounds out these shows for NXT for this week, and of course last week. So yeah, Brandon, I really appreciate you joining me tonight and covering those two shows.
Yep,
it's been fun, man.
Yeah.
So. Well, we want to make sure everybody knows where to go find more of this great content. If you want to come find out the next week's episode of NXT, or of course all the other great shows we talked about earlier in this show, make sure you go subscribe, rate, and review over at the W2M Network, wherever you get your podcast from, YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever it is. Just hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to rate and review. And please, give our friends over at 411mania.com and LastRomanProWrestling.com some love as well. And W2Mnet.com, that's the place where you go find the entire W2M Network family. Lots of great podcasts, lots of great other articles, and just stuff that you're going to want to check out. So please go check out that site. You'll get an opportunity to get a full eye of what we have to offer over here at the W2M Network. Well, until next time, guys, we thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you guys down the road.